eclipse of totality, and he had beautiful, clear skies down there. And so I thought it was a very impressive video, impressive work by Leo. Under all the circumstances with the travel and what have you, I think it came out quite well. So you can see it was quite spectacular totality. And then we had, of course, everybody remember the close conjunction that we had on December 21st. We got all sorts of pictures that came out and about from that event. And what a spectacular show that was. Just kind of one of those things that we needed in the midst of everything that was going on outside. Okay? And then, hopefully by then, on New Year's Eve and January 1st, you were able to push the restart button. And we got for the month of January, we have the full moon not until the 28th of January. And so we have a passing of a former astronaut, William Thornton, and he was the inventor of the treadmill for the shuttle, and that he was recognized for. And he was, I think, 91 years old. And then the rover Curiosity just passed the 3,000 day mark on Mars, and still going strong and still collecting data. And this picture was taken back in November, and it's a beautiful panoramic, high resolution picture. And so it's still climbing on Mount Sharp on Mars. And then, just recently, January 16th, just had a test rocket for the Artemis, for it to be in the moon mission after a delay of decades of delays. They're supposed to last for 8 minutes, and for some reason it got cut off. We haven't really had any follow-up explanation to why it was cut off. And I think everybody was still kind of surprised that it didn't last as long as it did. I mean, looking at it, it looked like it was a perfect test. This was tested down in Stennis in Mississippi. And they were already talking about sending these rockets over to Cape Canaveral, where they're going to do a test launch of Artemis 1 sometime later this year, and then eventually do the Artemis 2. Okay? The launch was heard nearly 60 miles away, 60 miles. This was one of the largest engines that NASA's ever put together. And so, not surprising that they can hear it that far away. I want to show you this video. It's kind of fun. If you watch carefully on the bottom lower left, when it goes to 18, look to your left, and you'll see that a comet comes in and disappears. Okay, it smashed right into the sun. But one more time, if you go to the right, you'll see another tiny little dot that it also came in and disappeared. Okay, so it comes in right there. Okay, so these were two comets, what we call goners. Okay? They got too close to the sun and disappeared. So that came out in the news today. Okay? So let's take a look ahead. For the month of February, we have the full moon on February 9th, but on February 23rd is a new moon. What does that mean? It's a Chinese New Year. And this year is going to be the year of the ox. And last year was the year of the rats, I think it was. Okay. And so on the 23rd will be the new moon, and that will be the Chinese New Year. It's a fun day to celebrate with the moon phases. So right now, not exactly a good time to go out and observe planets. I mean, after 2020, with all that excitement with Jupiter and Saturn and Mars and all of that, now we're kind of in a period where we're not going to see very many planets for a couple months. Okay? And so you'll see that with Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn are basically too close to the sun. Okay? But I'll show you a little bit on the 23rd. Someone just mentioned earlier in chat that they went out and saw Mercury this evening, which is great. But on the 23rd, on the 25th, Mercury will be on its longest elongation, which is about 15 degrees. So for Oregon, it's pretty challenging. You get good luck with the clear skies and clear horizon, but it'll be about 15 degrees above the horizon. And it's going to be at a magnitude almost just under 1. Right? So this is an opportunity to look for Mercury in the month of January if we get clear skies. And so the focus has been on Mars, and just a few degrees to the left is planet Uranus. It's at a magnitude somewhere 7, fairly faint, but not impossible. Mars is getting about magnitude of 0, okay, because we're pulling away. For a while, Mars was in a retrograde motion. It went forward, it went backwards during the month of November and December, and now it's proceeding forward again. So it's doing a retrograde that Mars and Earth were at a closest distance, and then we're starting pulling away, and that's what creates what we call the retrograde. And then what's happening with the planets? Well, they're all next to the sun. So we have Saturn here, Jupiter, Mercury, and then over here is Venus. So that's where everybody's kind of hanging out right now. We got Pluto. Jupiter will be in a solar conjunction on the 28th, and then Saturn will be just before that on the 23rd. And then a couple months from now, there'll be a morning object, and then 2020, they'll return for another show in 2021 for the summer. And then Perseverance, February 18th. Okay, this is one of 3 missions now heading towards Mars. Okay? And China and Arab sending their mission, but Perseverance will be on Mars, February 18th. And so there's going to be another what we call crane, sky crane. This one's going to be more automated. Okay? So mark your calendar for the 18th at about 11:15 a.m. with NASA will start broadcasting, or JPL, start broadcasting and start doing their commentary about the landing on Mars. Always a fun event. It's very intense, and they call this the 7 minutes of terror. Okay? It's a very challenging event when the air is so thin. They've been able to engineer the way to land on Mars with the challenges, and they've been so successful so far. So I'm looking forward to that. For the month of December, we have this Messier object that I recommend that you try. It's M37. It's about the 6th magnitude. But what I like about it is actually the nickname. It's called the Salt and Pepper Cluster. That's one of my personal favorite. It just seemed fitting. You have salt and pepper. Okay? It's in the constellation of Auriga. And let's see, here we go. And it's about a magnitude of 6, right? And so it's in good viewing right now for the month of December, January, and February. And so you look for the constellation of Auriga, look for the star Capella, and then you head south a little bit and you go almost right between these 2 stars. You see a nice little cluster. Highly recommended. And then the sun, we just passed 2020. I want to point out right here that we're moving from 24 to 25. In 2020, we had 208 days that were spotless, which makes sense because we were going into solar minimum. Okay? And so already in the first 18 days of 2021, we've had 12 days of spotless viewing on the sun. So that number should be smaller, technically, than 2020. And then you can see for the past month, the one on the right, you'll see that there's a lot of activities, especially around in the southern hemisphere of the sun. We see a lot of activity. We've had some strong auroras. And this picture on the left are the sunspots that we currently have now on the sun. So definitely some indication that we're seeing some activities clearly on the sun. And then to the view are interesting, we have the International Space Station. It's now kind of out of view right now a little bit. from this last period, we had quite a few opportunities to see the International Space Station. And you can go to spotthestation.com to get the latest information when and where the International Space Station will be visible. Right now, we've got the crew from Expedition 65, I think it is. And they've been putting up a lot of good videos, a lot of educational videos about the life on the International Space Station. And there was the fun one where they were interviewing some school children, asking questions to the astronauts. So they've been pretty busy up there. And the current Dragon Crew 1 is going to be up there, I think, until about May. Okay. And then some recommendation for getting some pictures in for the 2022 RCA calendar. We had some opportunity earlier this month, and we got the Mars Uranus conjunction, and then we got the full moon at the end of this month. And then next month, we have a beautiful full moon for November. And that is the Sky Report. Stay healthy, everybody, and we'll see you in February.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Whoa, okay. Having a little technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Okay. Our speaker tonight is Bob Grossfeld. Bob is the manager of the Oregon Observatory at Sun River Nature Center. Bob began volunteering at the observatory in 1990 and became the manager in 1998. He's a NASA JPL Solar System Ambassador and teaches astronomy at Central Oregon Community College. Recently, Bob led the effort to have Sun River designated as the first International Dark Skies Association Dark Sky Friendly Development of Distinction in Oregon. Please give a warm welcome to Bob Grossfeld.
There we go. Is that working? Okay. Well, thanks for having me tonight to talk about it. I am wearing a mask. We do have staff here at the observatory, and I'm dressed appropriately. Even though it looks like we're in an aurora, it's actually not an aurora. It's just cold in the observatory, as you can imagine here in Sun River. Some of you have been here before, and some of you haven't been here before. So I thought I would do a little overview of who we are, what we are, and what we do. We are open. That's the important thing. We shut down for a little bit in March and April of 2020, but we are continuing to do programs. So we're excited about that. So I'll share with you a little bit about that too. But my goal tonight was to have you have a chance to look at some of our equipment. Lots of changes going on here. Some of it I'll talk about. We're super excited about our plans for 2021. We have some things that we started doing in 19 that kind of got postponed in 2020, including our planetarium programs, which we were doing in an inflatable planetarium with a digital projector. So we kind of on hold with that. People don't want to go into a bubble during a pandemic. So like I said, I have a couple staff people here. Paul's going to help me in a little bit. He's going to follow me around with the computer screen so we can show you around. But I want to share with you real quickly a couple images and things like that. I'll give you a little overview and pop up my PowerPoint here. Hopefully this will work. All right. So this picture is actually super old now, I have to tell you. And I know Tracy Brown is with us tonight. At least I saw him listed there. This is one of his shots from early on when we had the observatory. We were doing some promo shots. This was one of his pictures that he took out here on location. There's a couple of Tracy's pictures in here, and also I'll share some of that with you too. This is what it normally looks like here in Sun River during this time of year. This is a couple years ago. The good news is we don't have to walk in the snow tonight to show you the telescopes, because no snow on the ground really here in Sun River. It's pretty mellow right now, but this is kind of what it looks like. Even though we get a lot of snow here, we get very clear skies. So even though it's not unusual for us to have 3, 4, 5 feet of snow on the ground, we have to shovel the roof, but we can still roll the roofs off and still run our telescopes. So That's the good news. And we're going to play around here in the observatory in just a few minutes. This is another one of Tracy's pictures with a nice sunset over the observatory. Those of you that are familiar with Central Oregon, we claim to have 200 clear nights a year. I don't work for Chamber of Commerce, but I will tell you we're very fortunate. I will tell you a little story though. We were open on Saturday night, totally cloudy. People showed up and then it cleared. So it happens a lot here. We don't usually get sucked in for a full night. So we were actually able to do some viewing. Okay, so here's the trick question for you. For those of you that have been here before, this is a super old picture. So as Mark mentioned, I started here in 1990. This is what it looked like in 1990 when I started. This is the dome, if you will. Now, I will tell you that I scanned this picture from a slide, and those of you that have been here before should start thinking about it a little bit and notice that it is reversed. The dome is supposed to be on the left, the doors are on the wrong side. The slide was scanned backwards. So this was your one trick question that I had for you guys tonight, but that is the original observatory. Yeah, when I got here, that's what it was. They were just putting the dome on top of the observatory. And as we say here as staff, we say this was the cute little observatory we had in Sun River. This is a little later with the old sign, right when we built the starport. This kind of shows you the dome on the right side of the doors for a change, and kind of give you an idea of what it looked like early on. Once again, snow around is not unusual for us, but we still can operate our telescopes even if it's snow. And I like showing this picture because this was like the first week after we built the extension, the starport, and you can see the original blue sign, which is actually hanging in my office somewhere. I was here a minute ago. Anyway, it's here somewhere, but it's the original blue sign for the Robert Glass starport opening. And the reason I want to talk about this a little bit is because we're actually going to build another one of these. We're going to build another roll-off going the other way with 6 more piers. So we'll talk a little more about that. We were supposed to do that in the fall of 20, but you probably heard about the pandemic and things kind of got held off. And building in Central Oregon is just super crazy right now. So we're putting it out to bid this month, and hopefully we'll break ground either in the spring or fall of 21. Okay, another trick question for you guys that have been here before. This is actually not Sun River. This is a telescope store. And I know Kelsey's with us, so I know she knows what this is, and a few of you might. That person in the middle with the hat is the world famous Steve White from Telview and Orion days. He was here visiting our store in Bend, Oregon. We had a store for about 1.5 years. To your back there is Jerry Niehuser. And then that's Lynn Carroll, for those of you that know Lynn, way back when. This is like 1999 timeframe. And we had a store in Bend where we used to do viewing right outside, right up front. People would come to see the moon and Jupiter and Saturn. And now it's a Safeway. So, bummer. We enjoyed having that. This is the original Star Corral with the wildflowers. And you notice there is just a bunch of no pavers out back. That has changed a lot over the years. And we'll talk a little more about that too, because that's an area where we're planning to do some expansions also. And we used to put telescopes out here. Mostly our Dobsonian would go out here, but you see all the benches, which by the way, those benches are still here. Sorry to say, they're still here. They still have the same splinters in them they had before. And this is where we do our laser guided star tours during our nighttime program. So it's kind of a cool area. Got great exposure to the west and to the south from this area. And the berm that you see, that dirt mound, blocks all the headlights. So that's even better. So this is looking at the front of the observatory during the time of after the blue sign, which is what I call, and we had information out front. In the middle there, you see the little white tower. That's actually a sundial, if you're wondering, which, by the way, now has a light on it because staff would run into that in the middle of the night. And that height for that thing is not great. So you can imagine running into that at night after a long night of viewing. Not pleasant. This is something that some of you might be pictured in here. I'm not going to go through everyone's name, but this was what we called in Sun River. We called this the No Home Star Party. This was between when we had the Mount Bachelor Star Party and the Brother Star Party, when we had no home. So we brought the Star Party to Sun River. And so we had a bunch of people set up their telescopes here. And this is kind of old school days. And we do an extensive amount of solar viewing at the observatory. We do a lot of stuff with school groups to view through our telescopes. This is one of our old setups. What you're seeing there actually is a 9 1/4 with a Coronado 40 millimeter sitting on the back side of that telescope. And we're going to talk a little more about solar here in a minute. We're going to go visit one of our solar telescopes. Not that we get to view through it because it's nighttime, but we'll get a chance to check it out. Here's a real setup for solar in the old days. The telescope in the foreground there is a 90 millimeter Coronado. And in the back there is that 9 1/4 with the 40 millimeter on it. The observatory owns about 7 solar telescopes. 2 of them are calcium telescopes, and then we have a bunch of Coronados out here too. We have a double stack 90, a brand new 70, a couple 60s, calcium 70s, a bunch of different telescopes. So if you're into solar viewing, we're really set up for it. And we enjoy showing people the sun directly. And I really like this picture because it has our old display on the background there. That's old school for sure. So yeah, we'll go show you the new stuff here in a little bit. And like I said, school groups are a big thing for us. We do a lot of daytime programming with school groups. We do rocketry, we do solar viewing, we do solar rovers. And of course, when we had our planetarium operating, we did planetarium programs also. Inside the starport or star dome, we have our big telescope and a bunch of displays, and then there's some of our old planetary displays in there. This is a family. I love showing this picture because this family comes every year to Sun River, and those girls are not this small anymore. They have grown up over the years, and it's amazing to see the people that come to Sun River year after year. They're getting older and older, and their family keep coming year after year. And the thing I love the most is hearing from people saying, "Oh, I came here as a kid, and now I'm bringing my kids here." Well, that just shows how old I am. Okay, but it's so wonderful. And some of our staff has been here over 20 years. Many of them have. And so it's very rewarding to have these people come year after year. And these young ladies always introduce themselves when they come and visit us. This is one of the original setups for our solar viewing. We thought we were just super cool when we had this setup. What you see here is an SCT 9 1/4. That's a celestron, and then a TeleVue 102 with a glass filter. Notice the white face on the front of that Schmidt-Cassegrain. That is a Daystar, old Daystar, super old. Dell Woods actually made us a really beautiful filter. We don't use that anymore, but it was, we thought we were cool. When we had that, we thought we were state of the art. We're never gonna need anything else. We were way wrong. Those of you that are really into the equipment side of it, that actually is an old G11 that thing's mounted underneath. We ran the G11s here for about 2 years, and then we went away from them, but I'll go into that here in a little bit. Here's the old setup in the starport with all the crap in the corner and stuff. In the back corner there, that is actually a StarMaster 20, which we're going to spend some time talking about because we have one set up in the building. We actually have 2 of those. So we have 2 of those 20s, and that telescope you see all the way back, that is an 11 celestron, and then that's a 14 in the middle, and then there's a 9 1/4 in the front there. These are all mounted on the old Celestron CI 700s. We actually have 8 of them. They're really old school mounts, if you're familiar. They're really a clone of the old G11, G8 type mounts. And Celestron sold these. We refurbished them, put new worm gears on them. So we got a bunch of them, and they actually hold up pretty well. We actually pulled them out for the conjunction that we just did a couple weeks ago with a nice, beautiful refractor on it, so we could do the conjunction out back. So that was kind of fun. We have a bunch of piers out back. We can set up different mounts, and we just hadn't have a CI 700 we could pull out and use that. So you can see the old plaques there from the donors' names from people that have donated telescopes in the past. And there's that StarMaster 20 we're going to spend some time talking about. That's actually the Martin StarMaster 20, a technical term. That 11-inch SCT is still around. We don't have that set up right now. It's one of the telescopes that's going to go into the new building. We have a bunch of telescopes sitting aside. And of course, there's a 13-inch Orion, actually, excuse me, 12-inch Orion telescope in the background there. This telescope is not set up, and I want to spend a little time talking about this because this is the original telescope when I came to Sun River. This is a 12.5-inch Parkes, for those of you that remember Parkes. And this telescope was their observatory grade telescope. And we actually done on Byers 812. And this was the telescope that when I came was in the dome. The reason we built the starport, the roll-off roof, was to get this telescope to a lower point. As most of you know, with the Newtonian, you got to look up to the eyepiece up on top. So we were sending people up this 15-foot ladder in the dome at night, people that aren't used to looking through telescopes, and they didn't like it. So they climb up the ladder and spend like a second looking in the eyepiece and then come down. So we weren't really getting good use of this telescope. So we ended up building the starport and bringing this telescope down. We actually own 2 of the Bayer 812 mounts, and we've been looking for a mount heavy enough to handle this bad boy because it's a heavy telescope. This telescope is still in use. We took it out because of the COVID thing. We wanted to make more space in the starport so people could walk around, but we still have it. We still plan on using it. The mirror was just completely recoated. Some of you know Nate with Aurora Precision. He did a nice, beautiful mirror cell. If you haven't seen his mirror cells, super cool. I'll show you one on the back of the 30 here in a little bit. But yeah, that's a wonderful telescope. It's still being used and will be used when we build our new building and the COVID thing goes away. And once again, this is just another 11-inch STT that was there. And I love showing this picture because it's super old school. There's a bunch of junk laying around. Those of you that have been worked at the observatory, and I know a few of you are volunteers that have come here. We have volunteers from all over the country, and a lot of people from Portland, Salem areas that come over for a week, spend their time in Sun River, and they come out and they play with us for the time that they're here. So this is kind of old school picture. There's a nice rocket in the background there. And there's a 14. And look, the board is completely stripped down in this picture. I don't want my boss to see that, so we're going to move forward from that one. This is a picture from that the no name star party thing with all the people set up on the star deck, and lots of different telescopes set up out there looking at different things. This is our telescope in the dome. Interesting story about this. This was in 1999. This is the Yoakum 20-inch Ritchie Cretin telescope. This telescope has been redone a few times now. It is on it's optical guidance system mount that has been redone by our own, everyone knows Dan Gray and his group of folks put this baby together. It's now fully go-to operational with Bayer gears on it. So this has been upgraded quite a bit. And we're going to spend some time looking at this telescope too, because there's some other cool features about this telescope that we can share with you. So this is before the upgrade. So this telescope, I had to put this picture in here because we're going to go out and look at it in person. But this is like the first day we had this telescope at the observatory. This is originally, most of you know Chuck Detloff. He started this telescope a long time ago. He actually made this as a 30-inch telescope, and then it was modified over years. It's been an Oregon Star Party for I don't know how many millions of years that it's been up there. But this was actually donated by Corwin Matthews and his wife to the observatory, and we had no place to put it. Quite frankly, it's a big telescope, and I think Corwin got tired of moving the silly thing around, and it's big. Okay, that give you an idea of scale. The finder up there is actually an 8-inch. Okay, so it's an 8-inch finder on a 30-inch telescope, and we're going to go over and check this thing out here. Underneath it, you'll see that there's a drive, that's a equatorial platform. We are actually putting a Stellar Cat on this telescope as we speak, and that hopefully will be operational by the time spring break comes rolling around. So we're going to spend a little time with this telescope because this telescope has a history in Oregon, and especially with the Oregon Star Party. Those of you that wander around at the Oregon Star Party probably stumbled across many large telescopes, but I know this one has been around for a long, long time, and it's great to have it at home here. And we've upgraded it quite a bit. It was down for 2 years, and this last summer we opened it back up. We had the mirror completely redone. All of it has been completely refurbished, and then we had a nice, beautiful mirror cell. It used to have a sling on the back end. Now it has one of Nate Courier's beautiful mirror cells. We'll show you that here in a couple of minutes. We're going to go out and check this telescope out. But this has been a really, especially with the limited programming we have. When people do these private star parties, they're getting private time on a nice, beautiful 30-inch telescope, which is very cool. I mean, super cool views. And I will tell you, I have a lot of favorite things to look at. I know you all do. M22, oh my goodness. It's like, fills up the whole screen. It is just so impressive. The Veil Nebula. Oh, see, I moved from the Bay Area, and my teacher at the University of California at Santa Cruz said, you're never going to see the Veil Nebula in a telescope. I know most of you have, but in this telescope, oh man, it is awesome. Awesome. And all the staff have their own favorite things to look at. Andromeda is beautiful. Anyway, I could go on forever, but anyway, it has been vastly improved from the days that it was up at the Oregon Star Party. So if you want to come play with a really nice, fun telescope, highly recommend this one. Okay, so this is where they're parked now. This is the part we built. So that telescope you see to the left is one of our Star Masters, and then the one in the center is the 30. These buildings roll off. You can see the tracks on the ground. So this is where people bring their telescopes out. We actually have all these pavers. So if you bring your telescope, we can actually set it up out on the patio if you want to come out during one of our public programs. But you have beautiful views of the south and beautiful views of the west from this point. And once again, that's an 8-inch sitting on the back end there. We're going to go visit that scope here in just a few minutes. So the observatory is actually part of a bigger operation. It's called the Sun River Nature Center and Observatory. So we have the observatory across the parking lot, and then we have the Nature Center building. And the Nature Center building is a little ways walk. They're the ones that have the bathrooms, the heat, and all that stuff. So it's great nowadays. People pay online. They don't have to pay their admission in the Nature Center like the old days, like 2 years ago. And now we actually have this walkway area. And then we have an amphitheater where we can hold 250 people and we do programs. Not that we're doing 250 people right now because of COVID, but we actually able to do some programming out here. And I know Jim's actually done some program out here for us. I think that was 2019, I believe. So hopefully we'll get Jim to come back. Maybe we'll get Jim to do a virtual program for us. I'll talk to him about that. That's a hint, Jim, if you're interested. And this is what it looks like from a drone. This is the roof rolled off and the flat roof. And that part you see to the right will end up being a new roll-off. So this roll-off is about 32 feet long by about 20 feet wide. So it kind of gives you an idea of scale there. And you can see the telescopes in our little, what we call the Daub farm. Unfortunately, during the COVID years, we weren't really doing a lot of Daub farm stuff because people touching stuff and all that. So we kind of went away from that a little bit. Okay, you guys ready to go on a little tour? Thumbs up from somebody. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of this show here, hopefully. Where do I go here? Oh, stop my share. Okay, so now you can see me, right? Okay, so we're gonna go. I'm gonna unplug you guys, and hopefully I can get rid of my. Oops. Let's see here. I need to get rid of my background. Okay, so I'm going to take you guys for a walk. And we're going to head on out to the 30-inch telescope. And I might have to change my background. Hang on one second. Let's see, where'd I go? There we go. Okay, now we're somewhere useful. Okay, good. Here we go. We're going to head out to our building that you guys just saw with the 30-inch telescope. And hopefully I don't make you too dizzy by walking. I'm going to close that window. Ow, it's really dewy out here right now. So hopefully you can see our wonderful telescope. This is our 30-inch telescope that are just, so in general, it has a laser actually built in up here so we can actually point things out. It has, of course, a tail rad. All of our telescopes have tail rads. For those of you just starting out with astronomy, if you haven't had a tail rad before, this is something that I highly recommend. Most of our big telescopes now have the sky instrument Starlight focusers, 2-speed focuser. You can actually have the 2 speeds. Some of the inexpensive ones that are out there nowadays are a nice step up. But the Starmaster, Starlight Instruments makes a very fine focuser, and we've been very happy with the use of those. We're going to go to the back end of the telescope here and kind of.
You're the best. We got cameras.
Yeah, Bob, you're kind of cutting out on
because we're
us.
still working on
Yeah.
system, but this is actually a nice little finder. And then if we get
Yeah, Bob, you're still cutting out on us. I think you're maybe a little far from the Wi-Fi or something.
Mm-hmm.
Probably doesn't have a cell phone on him to text him.
Yeah. Okay, so Bob is still connected, but clearly he's wandered a little too far from the Wi-Fi. I think if we, okay. Yep, and a text message has been sent, so hopefully they'll come back in range and the tour will resume. In the meantime, maybe we can open it up to a talent show. Anybody got a special talent they want to show off? So let's see. So I'm hearing from the chat that he's muted. I will unmute him. I'll try anyway. Nope, it's just not responding.
pictures there.
Aha,
I should
there
make
he
one
is.
stop. Are we still there?
Yeah, Bob, we lost you for a
Guys
little
still here?
while.
Okay, you got me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yes?
Yes.
Thumbs up? Oh.
Yeah, I think you
So,
wandered a little too far from the Wi-Fi for a minute.
Yeah, that's probably it. This is our little Dob building here. We keep all of our Dobsonians in this little shed out here. There's a 12, 14, 9 1/4, and a bunch of other telescopes in here. But we're going to head inside the starport and talk a little bit about some of these other telescopes. This telescope here you've seen is a solar telescope setup originally, and this is a TelView 102. Now I will tell you that normally we have a TelView 101 set up in here. We're actually sending that back to have TelView redo the focuser for us. It was a demonstrator telescope. It's gotten a lot of use over the years. So right now we have a 102 mounted here. The mounts, for those of you that are familiar with mounts, these we've been using the Avalon linears. We have 6 of those, and they're very nice mounts. They're belt driven. They've held up really well. One of the things that we found at the observatory is that we are maximizing these nights. We're doing open 200 nights a year. So these telescope mounts were not originally designed to handle that type of activity. So we've been actually very lucky with these. They've held up really, really well with belt drives, and they're complete go-to setup for sure. And they're actually great because we can turn them on without having to do anything except for turn them on and they'll drive. So we don't have to do anything, do 2-star alignment or any of that kind of stuff. Turn them on, they drive. They're similar to some of you that remember the old Vixen mount. They have simple clutches on them, super easy to move, super smooth to operate. We've had really good luck with these. This is also on a handicap pier. So the pier, we can actually have a wheelchair come in. We can lower the eyepiece to whatever level we want. So this is actually Lunt Engineering's design for their adjustable pier. And this works perfect for a lightweight telescope like this. So we're been very happy with it. This has been in operation now for about 5 years. These mounts started coming here in 2014, and we've been using them. Have had no failures at all with our mounts during the entire time that they're here. So pretty excited about that. We go over to our solar telescope here. This is the Coronado 90. This was made possible by a really generous donation from an RCA member. This is from Jan and Tracy Brown. Thank you. My mind went blank there. Tracy's going to get me for that. But so this has been here for a long time. It's also on an Avalon mount. This is a full original pre-made 90mm Coronado. It has two 90mm Etalons in the front, a 30mm blocking filter in the rear. And I will tell you that we have spent 20 years trying to find the best solar telescope we can find. I've had everything here, Lunt, Coronado, everything you can think of. And this is still the best views. People can walk in and actually see solar prominences and filaments perfectly clear through this telescope. We don't have to pretend that they're there, easily see it. This has just been a wonderful piece of equipment. We have a lot of great toys here. This one is just phenomenal. And if you want to look to a beautiful solar telescope, come by and take a look at this. There's a lot of cool ones out there. We've been selling Coronado and Lunt for many, many years. I have a 70mm double stack, the new Solar Max 3. I've been very impressed with that as a portable telescope. We don't use it for our programmed here, but when we go to schools and stuff, we do take that. We also have a bunch of pre-made 60 and 40mm Coronado scopes too. So kind of cool. I should mention just in the background here, I don't know how well you can see it. This just came a couple days ago. This is a TelView 76 demonstrator. We actually have almost every one of TelView's telescopes here as demonstrators. So if you want to come down and try a 76 or 85 or a 101 before you buy one, we're here. We saw the moon in this. That's about all we've done with it. So not that exciting, but it's here to play with. So we're excited. One of our newer telescopes that that most people have not seen here. This is a Meade LX 200. It's an f8 16-inch. It's on a Celestron CGE Pro, older mount, but it seems to hold the weight pretty well. We were running our 14s off of this thing. This is an f8, and it has really impressed the staff. We have run a bunch of Meade SCTs in here. This is by far the best one we have used so far. In the new building, we'll probably have a 12-inch f8. As most of you know, the SCTs are usually f10 and that type of thing. This telescope has really done a great job for us. Been very happy. It's actually a worthy telescope. Now, what does that mean? So those of you that have been to Bend before might be aware of Worthy Brewery. Worthy Brewery is a brewery on the east side of Bend. And the owner came to one of our programs, saw Jerry's program, and said, "Oh, this is awesome. I want to put a telescope in my brewery." Okay. So he dealt with the University of Oregon, dealt with us. We ended up putting in a RCOS 16-inch telescope in there on a beautiful mount. It's actually a Paramount, and it's operating there. So in exchange, he got us our own Worthy 16-inch telescope. And so this telescope's done really well. Also set up for 2-inch. It also has a feather touch focuser on the back end of it. So worked out really well. We actually have 3 of these CGE Pros. They've held up pretty well considering the type of load. 16-inch telescope wasn't really designed for that. Our 14s will go on a similar amount. We have 2 more of these sitting in storage for the new building. We're going to walk over here to the next telescope. Some of you have not maybe seen before. And let's see here. We'll get away from the light. There we go. Cool. Thank you. This is a Meade 130. And this is part of, I think they call it a Series 5000 or something like that. So this was brought here as a demo, and the staff liked it so much, we kept it. So actually works pretty well. It's a $2,500 optical tube. It's not too expensive, but it has performed extremely well. It still has a 2-speed focuser on it. And then we've been really impressed with this scope. Saturn this past summer, the views have been spectacular. With conjunction, it was wonderful. We actually own a bunch of refractors. Even though we only operate 2 or 3 of them during our public programs, we really love using refractors. We're looking for a big one now, a big refractor. So any of you out there that have a big refractor and like to find a home for it, feel free to call us and let us know. We'll put your name on it and all that. We are talking to Teleview about having the 127 come here. We're also talking with Sky Watcher with their 152. So we're looking at some bigger scopes. Astrophysics is a little bit out of our price range at this point, but hey, you never know around here. This is definitely lots of cool toys. This is one of my favorite telescopes. This one actually has a history with the Oregon Star Party. And some of you may have seen this telescope there. This was actually Dennis Martin's old telescope. Dennis Martin is one of our volunteers. He was in Salem, moved to Bend. So he's been hanging out on our side of the mountains. And we actually have 2 of these now. We have 2 NGT-18. Super nice telescope, f4.5. It is a split ring equatorial. So it is keeping the eyepiece down low. It has a eyepiece, so we can turn it into any position. Once again, feather touch on it, right angle finders, Telrad, of course. Beautiful telescope. It has held up really well. And we actually, like I said, we operate 2 NGT-18s here at the observatory. They're discontinued now. JMI doesn't have them anymore, but it does have digital setting circles. We can make it a go-to, but we're lazy because we have this. We have 2 of these actually. This is a Star Master 20. This is actually the same donor that gave us the 18, gave us the 20, because he told his wife he wanted a lighter telescope. So he has a 14 now, and we now have this beautiful 20-inch telescope. It isn't normally here. This is where that big 12.5-inch telescope is usually hanging out. This is got a little Sky Commander on it. We're actually upgrading this to a Nexus system currently. It is a full go-to telescope. Very, very nice, beautiful telescope. Once again, still Telrad mount on it. Everything big for us has feather touches on them, so it's kind of cool. It is a beautiful telescope. If you haven't played with the Star Master before, they're equipped with what's called a star tracker. They drive real well. You can run them as strictly as a Dob, or you can run them as a go-to telescope. So it's kind of a neat thing. And then I want to show you one more thing before we go in the dome. Just in the corner here, you never know what you're going to see at the Oregon Observatory. Okay, so those of you that are as old as I am know what this is. It is a 10-inch Meade DS10 from about 1980, and it's been completely restored, mirrors recoated. It is going to be outside. It's f4.5, super wide field view. We're working on getting this fully restored. Lots of cool toys here that you never know what you'll find here in the corner of our observatory, but it is very slick. It's got a JMI focuser on it. Yeah, all painted back to original colors. This was this came from a couple different people in different ways. So anyway, let's head to the dome because I want to show you. Oh, we got to show them the roofs, don't we? We'll do that after we do the dome. Let's go into the dome. And so this has been the starport area. We're going to walk into the dome. And I think I showed you some pictures of this telescope. This is a an RC, excuse me, it is not an RCOS. It's an optical guidance systems telescope. It's a 20-inch Ritchie Creedon. It is brought here in 1999, was its original first light in the dome. This would replace our old Newtonians. The Newtonian used to be way up high and had to climb a huge ladder to get to it. But this telescope has been upgraded a couple years ago. Dan Gray built took the buyer's gears and made it a fully go-to telescope. So this is kind of our centerpiece, if you will. It is really been enhanced. We had the mirrors recoated on this and had it improved. The collimation is really spot on. So this has been a great telescope. We call it the Yoakum 20. The Yoakum family donated this telescope in 1999, and it has been here ever since. And we're super happy to have it here. Once again, equatorial mount. It has its own, if I bring you around the back here, it has its own little system of drive up here. This is all go-to. It has its own eyepieces hanging out back here. Of course, full selection of Ethos Nagler eyepieces in the back end of this telescope. So when you come here and view through this telescope, you're probably looking through some teleview glass. One of the things that I really like about the observatory is you can come here and try different eyepieces in different telescopes. Kind of cool. All right, we're going to take you back into the starport. There's some. If we leave anything out, we should show meteorites probably. In the corner here, we have one of our meteorite racks. This is actually one of many. We actually have a full meteorite display inside the Nature Center building. For Richard Norton, for those of you that remember Richard Norton before he passed away, Dorothy Norton has let us have some of those meteorites, and we have a great collection of those. And we're really very excited about moving the meteorite collection into the new building. I should, turn this way one more time, Paul. I want to just mention the doorway here and all this area. This is all going to get torn out. This is where we're going to open up to the new starport and the new roll-off building. So all this is going to be opened up when we do our expansion. So we always get the question about people coming into the starport here, and how do we view through the telescopes? Well, it turns out most people when they come in here don't realize that there is actually a roll-off building here. And so this whole roof rolls off. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on a little bit of white and red light. And we're going to roll off the building for you, give you an idea of how fast this thing moves. And it's going to be a little noisy, but not too bad. So when the weather's bad, we can roll this thing on and off really quick, and we can actually cover our telescopes pretty quick. If the power goes out, we're kind of in trouble because we have to do this by hand, and it is quite heavy after all. So now you can see that our telescopes are fully exposed, if you will, to the night sky. So the new building will do the same thing. We're just going to roll it off to the other direction. So we'll have these 6 piers in here that will be for nighttime, and we'll have 4 piers for nighttime in the new building with 2 set up for solar. So we'll either run 2 or 3 telescopes for the daytime program with 10 telescopes for a nighttime configuration, plus the telescopes outside, plus the telescope in the dome. And of course, all of our volunteers like to operate the Dobbs and come out and play. And I can actually see the moon in the background. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but the moon came out. Super frosty here. It is about 34 degrees in the observatory right now. So that's why I'm wearing a hat and beanie and all that. So anyway, I wanted to give you an idea of what we have here at the observatory and kind of give you a little bit of a tour. Our future expansion plans include a planetarium and include some more telescopes, and you can kind of see out back here where the dome with the roof rolled off in the area that we can set up. Obviously, we're using some artificial light right now to show you the entire area out back. But we have a room for lots of telescopes. So if you want to come out and volunteer and bring a telescope with you, feel free, or come volunteer and we'll let you use our telescopes because we're always looking for people to help us out during operation. So I think what I'm going to do is go back into where it's a little bit warmer and answer some questions, but I want to show you some pictures that Tracy has taken here and a few others have taken here. So we're going to head back. Oh, I should show one more thing. I'm going to grab you and we're going to roll the roof back on. Hang on, here it comes. And there's Paul. Hi, Paul. And you can see the roof rolls that quick. We'll go towards the dome here. Being followed by a roof. And it is now Beautiful. I did mention some of the toys that we have to play with. If you want to come here and try stuff out, a lot of you know that we sell a lot of things. We're pretty spoiled here. We have quite a few toys. I'm going to show you the one eyepiece case that's here. I don't know how well you can see this from a distance, but this is all, you know, Teleview, Explore Scientific, Orion, Celestron Meade eyepieces of every possible size you could think of. So we have lots of experience using a lot of different eyepieces in the observatory. And if you want to come and try something before you buy it, this is a great place to do it, which is why COVID thing is not such a bad thing for us, because we've been able to do private programs. So instead of my Aurora, you get to see what the messy office looks like. There you go. So I do want to share a few more pictures with you, and then we'll get into some questions. Hang on a second. We're going to spin this over. If I can get it to go. Oops. Try that. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So I just want to show you a couple quick pictures of our facility. This is kind of looking at the new expansion plans of the artist's rendition of what it looks like. You can see down below there's plans for a 95-seat planetarium, a new store, a new classroom. So this is the future of the Oregon Observatory. And we've raised the money. We just got a $150,000 grant from the Murdoch Foundation to build the expansion on the observatory. So that is the first and foremost thing that we're going to be doing. This is a picture. This is another Tracy Brown picture during one of our nights that were open with the beautiful Milky Way. We're very fortunate to have clear skies. And of course, being a destination resort, we get people from all over the world. And a lot of people have never seen the Milky Way. And this is one of the things that Mark mentioned earlier about the idea of the dark sky, and how fortunate we are with work from a lot of different people with the International Dark Sky Association, making Sun River a dark sky location. It's the only one in Oregon at this point. I'm hoping other areas in Oregon follow through, including like Prineville Reservoir area. We hope that they can continue to protect the night sky. We use it as an educational tool here at the observatory. We have Bend, the glow from Bend, that we can use to show people the influence of the night sky. But certainly we get people from major metropolitan areas never seen the Milky Way, and most of you know how spectacular the Milky Way is. But when you're from Los Angeles or from a major metropolitan area and you've never seen the Milky Way, it is stunning. And this is one of the facilities that make it possible for people to see it. So our designation is, I think, the first step in Oregon to help people understand from the educational standpoint. And that's what we plan to do with the IDA. We were fortunate because Sun River 50 years ago had lighting ordinances in place. So we didn't have to reinvent a wheel. They were already there. So we were very fortunate that 50 years ago, we were able to protect the night sky, and we just took advantage of it, did the forms and all that, and it worked out well. But you can see we have a spectacular Milky Way. That's actually the 14-inch telescope mounted there looking over towards the Milky Way. Kind of interesting to see that. There's another nice beautiful picture of the galaxy Andromeda and its companion taken here at the observatory. And this was taken recently. This is Neowise. Hopefully a lot of you got to see Neowise. This is out front, taken from the parking lot of Neowise from the observatory. RCA is great because they have so many wonderful photographers, and there's lots of people in Oregon and certainly near us too that are just wonderful astrophotographers, and they take these wonderful images. And that's not something we primarily do here. We do have cameras available here that we use. We have a couple of Malicam, we have some ZWOs, and we have some other cameras here. We've been doing research with what's called Recon as part of the National Science Foundation program for looking for sub-Neptunian asteroids. And so we've been doing that. We're one of the areas that help our communities that are mostly high schools get images. And so we do some imaging here and some research, but our primary is education. This is a picture taken during right before the conjunction So you can see the snow on the ground there. There's a 20 and the 18s out front there. And there's a 120 refractor. It's an old Orion Vixen refractor on a CI 700 sitting out there. But we actually had clear skies. We were able to offer 5 nights of viewing of the conjunction. As Jim mentioned, the conjunction was phenomenal. I was totally blown away seeing in the 30-inch telescope Jupiter and Saturn and its moons. Oh, it was awesome. Of the 5 nights we were open, we had 4 good nights of viewing. So we were really fortunate. And you can see here, you can't really see Jupiter and Saturn, but they're there. I promise you, they're there. And this was one of the pictures that were taken during our twilight. So we actually were operating during the time of the pandemic. And what we're doing now is we've limited the size based on what the governor allows us to do. During the summer, we were doing 45 people in 1-hour sections because the limit was 50. So we got 45 plus the 5 staff. We were doing 50 people from 9 to 10 and then 10:30 to 11:30. In the old days, pre-pandemic, we were doing 2-hour sections from 9 to 11. And that included viewing and a presentation and the constellation tour. And so now we're not doing the programs. We're just doing viewing with the laser constellation tour during our 1-hour sections. What we've done now in the wintertime, because we're not sure about the snow conditions and out back, we've dropped our number down to 25. And that 25 allows us to keep our groups small and keep people spread out during the pandemic. We're also doing private star parties for small groups on Tuesdays and Friday nights and 1-hour sections for that. So people can come out and try some different things, play with telescopes, or just enjoy the night sky. So it's one of the nice things that we've been able to offer during the pandemic. We're still doing solar viewing on Fridays and Saturdays, and we're also doing that as private groups also, so people can stay away from public and do just viewing of the sun and touch meteorites and do those kinds of things. So we're still operating even during the pandemic. It's just more limited in what we can do with our programming. So I think I'll end there and see if anyone has any questions for me, since I was probably talking super fast and left something out.
Great, Bob. Thanks a lot. So if you have questions, the way we've been doing it is typically having people type them into the chat.
Okay.
So just makes it a little less chaotic. So if you have any, please go ahead and enter them there. And Bob, you don't have to watch the chat if you don't want to. I can read them off to you if you prefer.
Thank you.
Sure. So Jim's wondering if the snow has an effect on the roof.
So the roof, the roll-off roof has a metal roof, so most of the snow just slides off. So we don't have issue with that. We do have issues with the flat roof where the dome is, where if it gets too deep, we actually have to go up and shovel it. And I've been here almost 30 years. We've probably shoveled the roof 4 times.
Oh,
so it's been pretty good.
Mike was wondering about volunteer activities. He's interested in if he might be able to bring a Dob.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we're always looking for volunteers, and I know there are a few of my volunteers currently that were signed up for tonight and are active. So we're always looking for volunteers, whether it's for 1 night, 2 nights, a weekend when you're here, or we have some volunteers that come every night, and we have some volunteers that come 1 night a week. I will say that during the pandemic, we're not open as much, so there's less opportunity for volunteers to come out. But we're certainly always welcome to have volunteers. You're more than welcome to bring your Dob, with the understanding that people are going to be looking through your telescope. So pre-pandemic, we were getting 200, 300, 400 people a night. So it was crazy, super crazy. So now with the pandemic, we're smaller groups. If you don't want to bring out your Dob, personal Dob, we have 8, 10, 12, 14-inch Dobs available here for people to operate. So you don't have to bring your scope, but if you'd like to, we'll put you out there, have your view, as long as you're okay with public, which means people might touch your eyepieces. Well, most of you know what public means. So that's kind of who we are and what we are. But yeah, we're always looking for volunteers to come out. We have a lot of folks that come out. They'll do the public program, and then they'll stay after we're closed, and they get the whole night to themselves, which is super cool.
Sova's wondering if you've developed any preferences for particular cameras.
Oh, I'm the wrong person to ask that question because I don't play with the cameras very much. I've been really happy with the results we were getting with the Malin cam, but with now some of the CMOS cameras that have come out, it's pretty spectacular. Most of the stuff that we do, people are taking their DSLRs and mounting them on our telescopes and taking pictures that way. We see a lot of folks wanting to do that. Cameras technology seems to be changing at such a fast rate. It's hard for me to keep track of it all, but yeah, we've got some new ones that we're working with right now. The most current one that we're working with is a camera that's an all sky camera that with a 360 dome that will be hopefully operating soon. We're going to start work on that. I just got all the parts here at the end of the year, so hopefully that will be off the web page super soon, hopefully before March is my goal, even though we've been talking about it for over a year, but we're getting closer.
So I think you've addressed this a little bit, but Vanessa was wondering what range of volunteer opportunities you might have.
Say that again.
She's wondering what range of different types of volunteering activities you might have.
Yeah, so our volunteers are fortunate because there's a wide range of things that they can do. They can help in the store. They can help with telescopes. We have some volunteers that don't come out during viewing times and work on equipment. We have some volunteers that help us restore, whether it's a bench or a telescope or a piece of equipment. So we have some different opportunities for folks to come out and volunteer. We have some volunteers that don't like to be, obviously nowadays, be around people. So we have some opportunities to work on projects away from the observatory also.
Great. So Kent is wondering if you've had any interesting wildlife encounters.
Yes, we have wildlife all the time. A lot of deer, a lot of babies. We used to have a baby fawn that was right behind the sign and people would walk right by it and not even notice it. We always get great horned owls are very prominent for us. So yeah, we've had porcupines wander through in the middle of a program. Yes, my favorite story, I'll just tell you real quick. In that amphitheater, we were doing a program and everyone was kind of hanging out and a mink ran across a lady and she freaked out. So yeah, lots of weird stories about creatures. Frogs are what get me. I'm working on a telescope down on the ground and there's a frog in there and they jump. Oh, freaks me out. Not that I'm afraid of frogs. Yeah.
So Mark is wondering what visual observing with a Ritchie Cretan telescope is like.
Yeah, great question. So one of the things when we got that telescope, we were concerned about how good the views would be in that telescope for our public programs. And one of the reasons we got that telescope was to do some imaging work with it. Turns out it's performing better than we expected. I will say that when we got it in 1999, it wasn't as good as we wanted. But in about 5 years ago, we did a bunch of work to it, including some different collimation and had the mirrors recoated and cleaned and everything was tip top. So now we're picking targets that fit that telescope better. So it's not unusual to come in and see something bright like the Ring Nebula or something like that. So like this last week, they've been doing Orion in it, the Orion Nebula, fills up the whole thing. And then we stick it in a 20-inch wide field view. So picking targets is very crucial for that telescope for sure.
Craig's wondering when your new edition will be completed.
Me too. I'm wondering too. We're hoping that we'll break ground in March or April as soon as the snow is gone. So that means we'll be operational in June. But I think that's also dependent on what the construction market is like in Bend, which is right now pretty crazy. So I'm going to say October of 21 to hedge my bet a little bit. But if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said October of 20. So I'm not very accurate on that. I'm pretty confident we have the money to do it. We have the design, engineering is all complete. All the hard work is done. But when we put it out to bid to get it built in September, it came in super high, like $100,000 more than we expected. So we're trying to get it to a point where we can make it fit within our budget and still get what we want done. as most of you know, construction costs nowadays are super expensive and a lot of concrete. So, but I'm optimistic we'll get it done.
Jim is wondering how you handle dew control on the larger scopes.
Central Oregon, yay! Dew is not really an issue for us. On the Schmidt-Cassegrains, we do use a dew shade. You might have seen it sitting there next to the 16, but we really do not have huge dew problems. We have more condensation on the outside of the telescopes like we are tonight. But on the Schmidt-Cassegrains, we'll run a dew shield on it. We don't usually run a dew zapper on our Schmidt-Cassegrains, but if they dew up that much, probably the viewing isn't worth anything anyway. So we'll cheat and use Newtonians if it gets that bad. We're fortunate because we have a wide range of telescopes that we can play with, but it's not unusual for us to like shut down a Schmidt-Cassegrain and use something else.
So Potter is asking about the kind of the thermal inertia associated with the walls.
Yeah, great question. So the original design of the roll-off building had vegetation on the front wall. So the south wall, the sun-facing wall, would be protected. And that is an issue that we have to deal with, especially in the summertime when it's really hot during the day and then gets really cold at night. So we do have some issues with thermal issues, but we usually try to use the telescope pointing away. So when we're looking to the south in particular, we'll use the outside telescopes that don't have that problem, and the inside telescopes will look in a different direction, so we're not looking over that big heat block. So we're fortunate in the sense that we can be able to move things around a little bit, but it is a concern, and it's true in the dome also. That telescope has a big, thick mirror in it, so we do have to spend a little time cooling the mirror and getting everything good to go, getting the temperature inside the building the same as outside. The winter time, it's not as big a deal because the temperature extremes are not too bad. I mean, it was 50 degrees today and it's now in the 30s, so probably be down to 20. So we don't have the extremes, but during the summer when we have 85, 90 degree days and it drops down to 40, we do have some issues that we have to deal with. So we, once again, manipulating telescopes, objects, things like that help us get through some of that.
Howard's wondering if you do any work with Pine Mountain or with the University of Oregon.
Yeah, so we do some work with Pine Mountain. We actually helped them attain some of their telescopes. That was the big thing. And just last month, that was December, right? Yeah, December, Dr. Fisher did a virtual talk for us. And so we do have a nice relationship with Pine Mountain. I think we work well together because we both offer the educational aspect of astronomy, but I also think we work well in the sense that people that work up there can come here, and some of the folks that actually have been students at the college that I work up at Pine Mountain. So we share a lot of commonality, and I think the relationship between Pine Mountain and the Oregon Observatory in the last 10 years has improved quite a bit. So I'm hoping that that trend continues. Central Oregon has really 4 observatories, and that's Pine Mountain, Worthy, and Prineville State Park, and us. Public observatories. There's lots of private ones.
So Christopher was kind of curious about how you're funded.
Donations. We're very fortunate to have almost all the telescopes you've seen, or either the telescope was donated or the money for the telescope was donated. And so we do charge admission to our programs. We do have a membership, but the biggest funding for the entire organization is a group of volunteers that run the Second Turn Thrift Store. The Second Turn Thrift Store gets a lot of donations from Sun River, nice community, and they sell stuff. So about $300,000 to $400,000 a year come through the Second Turn Thrift Store, all run by volunteers with one paid manager. Without them, we would not exist. And without the generosity of many members of RCA and other folks that have supported us over the years, we wouldn't exist or be anywhere where we are today.
So it looks like I misstated one of the questions. Rob was wanting to know, I think this was about their the Ritchie Cretan,
Oh, the RC,
using it, using it optically. I think he wanted to know why the secondary wasn't an issue.
Oh, once again, that's key. It's good question. So, and I didn't really talk about it with the design of that telescope. It actually has a robo focus on the secondary that we put a back focuser on it, so we don't have to run the secondary. But the obstruction itself has not been a big issue with us because of the types of eyepieces that we're running on it. So if we use something that's super high power, we'll get that block out where the center secondary will block images out. So we're very careful in what we're looking at and the type of eyepieces we're putting in there. The optical guidance system secondary is smaller than some of the other, physically smaller than some of the other Ritchies that are out there. So we're kind of fortunate in that respect. So it's not, it really is about picking the right images to make sure we're not, doing something like that's really narrow and having to put a lot of power on it. Like we never look at a planet. I will say I've looked at the moon with it, but just because it's fun. But it is not a has not been a big issue with getting as far as getting a blackout in centering the eyepiece. So we've been pretty useful in that area. So it's actually worked out pretty well.
So Lorraine is wondering if there are ever any packages where you guys cooperate with some lodging place where there's lodging.
Yeah, so
that
Village
there's-
Properties in Sun River has some package or did have packages available. Sun River Resort also has some packages available. I don't know what they're doing because of the COVID thing for the last year or so, but they were doing like family weekends where people can rent a place, family can go do all the different things, but then they'd have passes to come to the observatory at night. Most of the family reunions that we see and other groups like that set up their own reservations and then package it with the observatory. It's a little easier nowadays because of the fact that we can do these private groups. So not unusual for us to see one or two people come use the facility. We have a lot of the imagers that will come will actually tell us ahead of time what they want to do, so we can kind of prepare for that a little bit. If you're interested in doing that, always take the later program. Don't do the earlier program because that gives you more time.
So she was also wondering where those types of things might be advertised.
I think Village Properties had something on their website. I know the resort does not at this point. Bennington Properties also is a what's called a corporate member. So they have passes. If you stay at one of their facilities, you would get a pass to the observatory, but it's not a what I would consider a destination type package. So the best way to deal with that kind of stuff is, get your booking where you want to do it and then book the observatory on its own, especially now with the pandemic, because things are a little bit different than the way we were operating, say, a year and a half ago.
And Catherine is wondering, she said last time she was there, the entry fee was $5, and she was wondering if that's still true.
Oh, what a great question. So yes, the old price, we've changed our pricing. I will say that. And I'm not happy about it, to be honest with you. Right now, our public programs are like $20 a piece. So if you're coming into one of the 25 people on a Wednesday or Saturday night, it's $20 a person. Private star parties start at $180 to $200 for your group for the hour. We did have to change pricing from the COVID thing because of our limited capacity. Prior to COVID, we were at $10 for adults, $8 for kids, and then $5 during the day. So pricing structure for 21 right now, hopefully will get changed a little bit, but right now it's still at the $20. If you could just come to a public program, it's just $20 per person. We're not even doing kid discounts because, and unfortunately, it's kind of unfortunate because I really would like the observatory to be more accessible at a less rate. I'm hoping that for summer of 21, we'll have a night where it is much more cost effective. There are ways of getting free passes through the local public library prior to COVID. So there are some other ways of getting in, but right now, it's a problem. It is a problem. That said, if you're volunteering and bringing your telescope, we don't charge you. So that's been true for many, many years. Yeah, the rate thing is kind of a bummer.
Cool. Well, I think that we've run through all of the questions that folks have had up to this point, at least. And I just wanted to say again, thanks for such a great tour. And I guess there's one more question Allison's trying to sneak in. She's wondering how much it would cost if you volunteer. I think you might have just covered that.
Well, volunteer, if you're a volunteer, we don't charge you anything. So like if you came with your 8-inch Dob, we don't charge you anything. We don't charge your family anything. I mean, you're working, so we don't charge you, right? So yeah, for volunteers, we don't charge. All right, we have a staff. So our staff levels here are, we have about 20 staff people and about 60 volunteers that from all over the place. And I will say that we've lost a lot of our volunteers because of COVID, because, you know, obviously people don't want to come out and take risks when you're dealing with the public. And I certainly understand that. So I'm hoping as we move forward in 21 and into 22, that will become less of an issue. On a normal night, we're going to run anywhere from 5 to 10 staff people. So, and we're running anywhere from 7 to 12 telescopes, kind of give you an idea. And then I just saw that RV park thing pop up there, and there is no RV parking in Sun River, but there is south of Sun River. There are a bunch of different locations, and Thousand Trails is really close to the observatory, within 8 minutes drive time from Thousand Trails. But there's a bunch of camping throughout. You can't camp in Sun River proper, but outside of Sun River, there's a bunch of camping.
Mark was also asking if you visit for multiple nights, do you need to break down your telescope?
Depends on what kind of telescope it is. So we have a lot of folks that bring their telescopes like a AVX or, you know, some sort of tripod. We actually have wheels that we can move them around and store them inside the building. So no, you don't have to break down your telescope. If it's a big Dob or something, then it's a little bit different. We just need to move it somewhere where we can get it. But, you know, no, you don't have to set it up and tear it down. But some telescopes that work out on the deck, we would store indoors, either in the 2 roll-off building or inside the roll-off itself.
Okay.
For those of you that want to do imaging, we can set up in the starport a telescope on your mount on one of our piers, or you can use one of our mounts, but most people like to use their own mounts for obvious reason. But we've done that before too. If we know someone is coming in to do imaging, which is a way for us to be able to set up their setup inside the starport, and then they have, you know, they don't have to tear down their imaging setup. If you're interested in doing that, the Sunday and Monday nights are always the better nights for doing that. Hopefully the weather is good on those nights, but those are usually the better nights for doing that type of activity.
Great. Well, thanks again, Bob. This was really great. And I don't know if you saw the chat at all. You might want to look through it after we end the meeting, just because people were so excited to see everything that you have down there. And I think you've stimulated a lot of interest in people coming down to visit you or volunteer.
Well, I hope so. It's a very very unique facility in a lot of different ways. It's made possible by a lot of hard work from a lot of volunteers and paid staff, but it is it's very rewarding, sharing the wonders of the universe with people that most have never seen it, and even those that have seen it. Lots of playtime on beautiful pieces of equipment. So then maybe next time we can actually do some camera work and take some images. And we are going to be changing the starport around a little bit here in the next couple of weeks. So next time it'll be totally different. The dome will still be the same, but a lot of the other telescopes will move around.
Great. Well, thanks again. And one way or another, we'll connect with you again soon.
Thank you guys for joining us. And get warm. It's cold here.
Yeah. Everybody stay healthy. Happy 2021. Hope it's a better year for all of us. We'll see you next month. Next month, our speaker will be Rob Brown, and he's going to tell us about the joys of using 3D printing to enhance your astronomical observing. So that should be a lot of fun too. All right, take care, everybody.
All right, thank you.